Well, how about some music from Mason and Amy Jennings? Does that sound good?
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
It's a local show on 89.3 The Current.
First, we gotta get the guitar in. There we go. In every heart just wants to stay. Winter's coming and it's time to go. It's already over, we just didn't know. They're stacking up wood where the flowers grow. There's a tourist in every heart that can't wait to go.
There's a time and a place for us. It could be perfect if it wasn't for us. 'Cause Mama, we're in love with a memory, a perfect dream of how it used to be, when our hair was windy and our nights were free. That tourist in every heart sees what it wants to see.
Thank you, guys. And this is another song that's going to be on the record called "The Flood." It's a song I wrote a long time ago before I moved up to Minnesota. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I moved here in 1994, and it was sort of this. I visited here and visited, and it was just like fell in love with this place, and you know how beautiful it is, and how much I felt at home. And this is a song about Minnesota and its sister states, North Dakota and South Dakota. It's a song called Dakota.
Sort of met Dakota, introduced by Minnesota. I just smiled. She was 6 feet tall, said she hated these walls. We stepped outside for a while. She wore a plain green dress, said it was cold and it was best she should be running. She kissed my ear and said, my dear, come see me soon. Naked I am stunning. And when you do come, bring your 6 guns, keep them loaded, set your quota. And when you do come, bring your 6 guns, keep them loaded, set your quota. I said, one of these days, one of these days, one of these days, I will come. She had something for my body, jump high in the sky, I swear. She had something, give the car a meaner than a dog that's lost its way. She had something, made me sore. I did want her much, much more than good luck. You can go and mark my word, Dakota drove a big black Ford pickup. Sure. And when you do come, bring your 6 guns, keep them loaded, set your quota. And when you do come, bring your 6 guns, keep them loaded, set your quota. I said, one of these days, one of these days, one of these days, I will come. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, I will come.
Thank you.
It's the local show on 89.3 The Current. Big hand for Mason Jennings. How about that?
Thank you so much.
It's a song called Dakota. Tell us more about that trip to Patagonia that you made. How did this all come about, and how did you become involved in this film, this documentary?
A friend of mine, Emmett Malloy, was in charge of making the soundtrack for this film, and it was he asked me to come down and see this wilderness down there in Patagonia that was untouched, and went down there with Yvonne Chenard, who started Patagonia, the company, and Doug Tompkins, who started North Face, and went down there, and they're buying up all this land and pulling out all the fences and just leaving it untouched for a giant park that takes up hundreds of thousands of acres, and it's an amazing place. So I went down there with James Mercer from the Shins, and we just hung out and just experienced this beautiful land that it looks a lot like Montana, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Montana, and then up into like the Vancouver area. It's sort of that kind of landscape. It's similar, latitudes just on the south side of the earth. So
you had a nice visit then?
Beautiful. You can just drink out of the rivers, and it gets you thinking a lot. When you get away from that kind of all that vibration of all the cell phones and all the stuff we have going through the air, and you can just lay down and sleep beside a river and drink water out of it.
So you were totally off the grid? Did you?
Totally.
I suppose your cell phones don't work.
Nothing was
internet,
working.
Nothing then.
Yeah, 4 little flights on little planes to get there, and you can only get there by plane. And then right when I left, a volcano went off in this town called Chaitan, where I was hanging out, and just took out the town. I was like, my dad called me. He's like, man, you really picked some spots to go hang out in, and I was like, I don't know what's the likelihood of that.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And The Flood, when does this album do? Your album of the song you found on a cassette? Is that the story behind that?
Yeah, I had a friend call me, and I hadn't talked to her in a long time, and she said, do you have this tape? It just had like 1994 or 1993 on it, and had all these songs. It was like 90 minutes worth of songs. And
my goodness.
She started naming all these songs that I could vaguely remember, and it's like, no, I don't have any of those. And she's like, oh man, I think I lost it, and I don't know what to do, and I really want to hear it. And so I called my dad, and he sent me a box. He said he had a box in the basement.
Unlabeled cassettes?
Unlabeled cassettes, yeah. So I went through all these cassettes and found a bunch of songs that I was like, oh, these would be cool to release, So I re-recorded them all so they have more of a cohesive feel. And then that's going to come out hopefully in October, maybe November. And then we're going to do 2 shows, do a weekend at First Avenue, and I'll you know, hopefully have some special guests come up and some, you know, hopefully Amy will join me and my dad maybe will come up and join me for a few. And,
cool.
Yeah.
You're really putting out a lot of material. You got the Live at First Avenue and the Flood. Do you think your songwriting has changed, by the way, since you recorded those songs back in '94 or whatever it was?
Somewhat, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how exactly. I try not to think too hard about it. I just do what it feels right. And yeah, it was a little different.
You know, there's another thing I've been wanting to ask you ever since I saw the film I'm Not There. How did you become involved in this project? And
I didn't. It wasn't my idea, that's for sure. But they called me and said,
well, I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. And Todd Haynes, I guess, he made the film. He was a fan of my music, and they said they were listening to it on set a lot. And then somebody said, wouldn't it be fun to have Mason, since he's from Minnesota, and to come in and sing some of the early Dylan stuff. And I called him. I was really wary about it, actually.
I can imagine.
I was like, I don't want to do this, you know, like, can I change it? You know, because all the other guys on that soundtrack got to reinvent the songs. And they're like, nope, just you and a guitar and a harmonica and go into a room and sing it exactly like the same structure of the song. And I'm like, oh, what good is going to come from this? You know? But then I just decided, you know, what a fun opportunity. And I love Christian Bale as an actor. And he lip synced to my version. So that was a fun thing to be involved in. And
you know, I watched the film and I'd forgotten that you were doing that. It's like, oh my goodness, that's Mason.
Awesome. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. And your next gig locally, is that the Brad Kern benefit? Is that the next show you're doing?
Brad Kern's a friend of mine, and he was in a bike accident. He's a sound man, and he was in a bike accident, a hit-and-run bike accident, and had a broken skull. And he's doing better, but a bunch of local friends of his are getting together to do a show in October. I think October 8th.
Yeah, October 8th, that's the date. And Semisonic and tons of great bands will be part of this benefit. Again, it's October 8th, so you should really join us for that.
And I think we're going to do the record Birds Flying Away. I think I'm going to ask my band that played on that record.
Oh, so Rob Scoro
and Edgar Oliveira and Chris Thompson on sax. I think we're going to play that record because we have a short set that night because there's so many bands. So they thought it would be fun, since that's the time we toured with Semisonic, was during that record, and Semisonic's playing it. I thought that'd be fun to do that record. You know.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Mason Jennings, thanks so much for joining us. Amy Jennings.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Bill.
Mason and Amy Jennings, how about a big hand?
Thank you all.